Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Susuki. Coming up,
our officials have been in discussions with New Zealand officials to address the areas of concern that they had.
New Zealand pauses funding for the Cook Islands. Also, the Pacific economy is slowly growing, and
this isn't just for our Cook Islands people, it's been celebrated by all of our te moana nui a kiwa.
Performers gear up for Te Maiva Nui Festival. New Zealand has paused nearly $20 million in development assistance to the Cook Islands for the upcoming financial year. It's a result of signed partnership agreements between the Cook Islands and China in February that Wellington felt it wasn't consulted on. Caleb Fotheringham has more.
New Zealand Foreign Affairs Minister Winston Peters informed the Cook Islands government of pause in aid funding in early June, but it only became public today after the Cook Islands News found it in a Parliament document. Mr. Peters says the 2001 Joint Centenary Declaration, which contained a requirement for the two nations to consult regularly on security and defence, had not been lived up to.
I have made it very clear in our response to statements that were being made which we did not think laid out the facts and the truth behind this matter of what New Zealand's position is on behalf of the Cook Islands people who we have responsibilities to, and above all to the New Zealand taxpayers for whom we are answerable.
Cook Islands operates in free association with New Zealand, meaning it governs its own affairs. But New Zealand provides assistance with disaster relief, defence and foreign matters upon request. It also means Cook Islanders are New Zealand citizens. Over the past 3 years, New Zealand has provided nearly $200 million to the Cook Islands through its development program. Now, $18.2 million will be paused in the upcoming financial year. Mr. Peters says it's not connected to Prime Minister Christopher Luxon being in China.
It's to do with our relationship and what we've committed ourselves to and revised and updated in 2001.
Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown declined an interview today, but told his parliament the amount represents 4% of the country's budget and would have been spent on health, education and tourism. He says he was surprised by the timing of the announcement.
Especially, Mr. Speaker, in light of the fact that our officials have been in discussions with New Zealand officials to address the areas of concern that they had over our engagements in the agreements that we signed with China.
Cook Islands opposition leader Tina Brown says she is deeply concerned about the pause and wants answers from her Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister's been leading the country to think that everything with New Zealand is being repaired, hunky-dory, etc. Trust is still there. Wham bam, we get this in the Cook Islands News this morning. What does that tell you?
In February, hundreds of Cook Islanders marched outside the country's parliament, many carrying their New Zealand passport to demonstrate they don't want to jeopardise the two nations' special relationship. Tina Brown fears the diplomatic rift could ultimately see Cook Islanders losing New Zealand citizenship.
This is an anticipated response. I would be naive to think that New Zealand would not react. This and other things, passport included, citizenship included.
Former Cook Islands Deputy Prime Minister and prominent lawyer Norman George backs Winston Peters' decision.
It is absolutely a fair thing to do because our Prime Minister betrayed New Zealand and let the government and people of New Zealand down.
He was pleased that Mr. Peters only said the funding would be paused and hoped it would later resume.
Mark Brown should go on his knees and beg for forgiveness because you can't rely on China.
Massey University Associate Professor in Defence and Security Studies Anna Powles says New Zealand's moves may help China strengthen its hand in the Pacific. She says China could contrast its position when New Zealand uses aid as a bargaining chip.
And by Beijing being able to tell its partners in the region, we would never do that, and certainly we would never seek to leverage our relationships in this way. So this could be a very good news story for China, and it certainly puts New Zealand in a weaker position as a consequence.
She says aid should not be on the table in the debate.
So that spirit of the declaration is really in question here, and it will take a great deal of, or rather, should I say, the negotiation between the two countries, between New Zealand and Cook Islands, needs to take aid as a bargaining chip off the table for it to be able to continue, for it to be successful.
Rarotonga artist Tim Buchanan says Mr Peters is being a bully, using money to coerce his friends.
What exactly does Winston Peters want from us? What does he expect us to do? We're a sovereign nation, and as our agreement says, we're responsible for our own affairs.
The two countries' special relationship will be tested in Rarotonga tonight, with the New Zealand High Commission hosting the Cook Islands government for Matariki celebrations.
The decision by New Zealand's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Winston Peters, to suspend payment of aid to the Cook Islands could backfire on the government. Massey University Associate Professor in Defence and Security Studies, Anna Powles, says the move could strengthen China's hand in the Pacific. Dr. Powles spoke with Don Wiseman.
As a diplomatic strategy, it is unclear what Wellington is trying to achieve by pausing funding to Cook Islands as a consequence of Cook Islands signing the deal with China early this year.
Yes, well, he's using the aid as a bribe, really, isn't he?
We're certainly seeking to leverage it, and that given past tactics of effectively sort of trying to punish partners over their decision-making, sovereign decision-making, is arguably quite short-sighted, actually, particularly in the current context where Pacific countries have options, they have alternatives.
Yes, well, the thing with the Cook Islands, of course, is it doesn't have sovereignty, does it? It's still part of the realm of New Zealand. Mr. Brown, the Prime Minister of the Cook Islands, has indicated he would perhaps like that to change because of his requests more than once for the Cook Islands to have Cook Islands citizenship. So do you think maybe his cuddling up to China in this manner was all part of the same strategy?
Well, Prime Minister Brown has certainly made it clear over the years that he sees, firstly, independence from New Zealand as critical under his leadership, but also the means for doing so, which clearly relates to deep-sea mining and the economic benefits of deep-sea mining as a vehicle for independence for Cook Islands. And the independence conversation has been conflated with this. We know that under the previous New Zealand Labour government, with former Foreign Minister Nanaia Mahuta, that there had been progress in supporting Cook Islands' aspirations towards independence. And it's unfortunate that the geopolitics playing out in the region and Cook Islands' independence aspirations have been conflated in this way.
So where do we go from here? Because Mr. Brown effectively has been summoned to Wellington, hasn't he, for some sort of explanation. But we've sort of been down this road before, and clearly Mr. Peters wasn't satisfied with that. So it's all a bit messy, isn't it?
It is pretty messy. And again, this is unfortunate that this could cast a distinct shadow over the upcoming Pacific Islands Foreign Leaders meeting in September, but also importantly with respect to the relationship between New Zealand and Cook Islands. Now, aid should not be a bargaining chip. The relationship between the two countries surely should be deeper and robust enough to be able to work through these issues. But it fundamentally seems to come down to different perspectives on the spirit of the 2001 joint declaration between the two countries, which calls for that consultation by Cook Islands when it's entering into the foreign policy arrangements with other countries. So that spirit of the declaration is really in question here, and it will take a great deal of, or rather, should I say, the negotiation between the two countries, between New Zealand and Cook Islands, needs to take aid as a bargaining chip off the table for it to be able to continue, for it to be successful.
What impact do you think something like this would have at the talks that Christopher Luxon is having in China this very day?
Well, the fact of the matter is that we can't separate the China equation from what's taken place. Obviously, concerns held by New Zealand about the nature of some of those agreements between Cook Islands and China. And there are concerns that some of those agreements, some of those MOUs, potentially may cut across Cook Islands' national security interests and, by extension, New Zealand national security interests. So obviously China is very much part of this equation. The degree to which this plays into Prime Minister Luxon's talks in China is unclear. But what it does do is it actually opens the door for increased Chinese engagement with the Cook Islands and with other countries in the Pacific by being able to point to this type of behaviour of New Zealand using aid as a development assistance as a bargaining chip, and by Beijing being able to tell its partners in the region, we would never do that, and certainly we would never seek to leverage our relationships in this way. So this could be a very good news story for China, and it certainly puts New Zealand in a weaker position as a consequence.
The Pacific regional economy is growing slowly but surely, reports the World Bank. In their latest Pacific update, they argue that amidst global economic uncertainty, turbulent trade policies and natural disaster recovery, island nations can get around it all with one simple trick: employ more women. Koroi Hawkins has more.
When it comes to the Pacific economy, the World Bank says things are okay. In its latest update, bank economists have cast an optimistic outlook for the region, despite downgrading growth forecasts from the last update in October 2024. The 2025 projection is down 0.8 percentage points to 2.6%, increasing to 2.8% in 2026. The author of the update, senior economist Eka Vashakmadze, says the regional growth is a reflection of the global economy.
What we have seen, and this is very positive observation for the region, is that over the past years, as soon as these countries were able to recover, to rebound from their shock, they started to remedy their buffers and rebuild them. They are not yet back to pre-pandemic levels, but we are seeing improvement in fiscal balances across the board, and we are seeing the same for debt levels, stabilizing or even declining.
The World Bank says the best thing that countries in the region could do to boost growth is to bring women into the workforce. It says less than 43% of women in the Pacific are active in the labour force. The World Bank says that's a talent pool of around 500,000 people. Senior social development specialist Hele Bushave says it's not a question of whether island nations can afford to deal with that problem, but whether they can afford not to.
A particularly large group is women in this regard, and we illustrate that if women were to work at the same levels as men in the Pacific, the effect on the long-run GDP would be, on average, 22%. From an economic perspective, that's a transformational economic potential.
The World Bank's twice-yearly Pacific Economic Update covers 11 Pacific Island economies: Federated States of Micronesia, Fiji, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Nauru, Palau, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Tonga, Tuvalu and Vanuatu.
Te Maivanui, New Zealand is seen as the largest Cook Islands cultural festival outside of the Cook Islands. The event in October in Auckland will see over 1,000 performers come together to celebrate Cook Islands culture at its finest. Moira Tule Patela went along to an audition night for the only team outside of Auckland, Oire Te Whanganui Atara.
Te Maivanui, New Zealand is the largest Cook Islands festival in the world. It draws over 1,000 performers every 2 years to perform up in Auckland to celebrate the Cook Islands language and culture on stage.
That's Annalise Enoka Robinson, who's the communications manager for the group.
We've had over 180 people register. As I mentioned, we can only take 120 officially through the registered team to prepare across singing, composition, dancing and storytelling that's linked to the theme this year, which is climate change. This isn't just for our Cook Islands people, it's been celebrated by all of our te moana nui Akiwa across Wellington, the Hutt Valley and also Puriroa Strong represented in that response.
Oire Te Whanganui Atara's choreographer is seasoned professional dancer Te Hau Winitana.
I think just taking a team to Te Maivanui was kind of like the next step or stepping stone that I wanted to try as an artist, as a choreographer, as a practitioner. I was the female choreographer for the last Oire Pōneke group that came from Wellington, and then I just decided, let's just take a team, so I just put my name on and now we're taking a team to Wellington. We decided we'll put out a call to our Lower Hutt and Puriroa communities and also just our wider Wellington Cook Island community to come and join and The response turned out really, really good and really, really positive, and we got a lot of good feedback and a lot of interest to come into the group, and now we're here. Tonight is the final selection process. We've had three so far, and tonight's the fourth one. And so tonight, hopefully, our leaders and our instructors and choreographers will be able to finalise the final number and the final kind of group of the dancers and performers going up to Te Maiwanui.
Going along to the auditions is Hawaiki Hodges Taikato, whose mum is also one of the dancers.
I love representing my culture. I love dancing with pride. I'm going to say it again. I love representing Cook Islands. And my family's been dancing. My nana always comes along to these events. So I hope I make her proud on stage. It's an amazing environment. You feel like you're a part of where you come from. And I think that's amazing. And that's one of my favorite aspects of dancing for this group. Te Maiwanui, we're coming for you, so stay ready for us. Peace.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.